Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Welcome, everyone. This is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I am here with a co-founder of Jake and Gino, my co-host and husband, Gino Barbaro.
Hi, Julia.
Hey, Gino. Today, I really want to get into decision-making, Gino.
Okay.
Because we actually, throughout the whole day, we have to decide things and we don't even notice them. And our decisions really do impact our life and our future and our kids. And I want to really dive into that today.
The reason why we're diving into that is we had a group coaching call the other night with some of the Jake and Gino community members. And it's almost like a free-for-all. We just start opening it up, and then all of a sudden it becomes organic. And one of the things that most of the students on the call, they got stuck with decisions, whether it was a good decision or a bad decision. Once they made a decision, they went and revisited the decision. Was that a good decision? And it's really hard and it weighs upon you. And when you can't focus on the next step you need to take because you're always looking back in the past, that can be really difficult. And I think there's a few things that I'd like to start out with about creating decisions. Then there's a 6-step framework that I have that I learned from a mentor that I want to share with you that may help you in making decisions. I think the very first thing when making a decision, or just I think anything in life in general, is mindset. You're seeing what's going on right now all around society. We're blaming things on everything. That's a fixed mindset. At one point in your life, you're going to need to take responsibility. You're making decisions, then going back on them and blaming. It's sort of a fixed mindset because we're not claiming responsibility. It's okay if we make a decision and 3 months from now, we look back and we say, that wasn't the right decision. What you need to understand is if you make a decision today, you're making that decision today based on all the information you have right at the second in time. For instance, you buy a real estate deal. You know where interest rates are. You know what the cap rates are. You know everything. You know that information today. Don't beat yourself up 3 months from now if you made the wrong decision because you don't have that crystal ball to look back. You can't keep doing that to yourself. It's not a mistake. Look at it as an opportunity. And I think that's the most important thing. Have the growth mindset. Have the mindset that says you're going to constantly learn and constantly grow and constantly work harder in life to grow. If you have that fixed mindset, you're going to say to yourself, well, I'm not sure right now. I don't think right now is the time. You're always going to be putting it off. And my wife is going to say, I know she's thinking this right now, not choosing is a decision as well. If you're not choosing, you've just chosen not to choose. So that's a decision as well. So let me end this by saying, choose wisely, my friend.
I like that. Maybe you can just speak for me the whole time too. You had mentioned something that was super important. And we did, like Gino said, the Jake and Gino community, we host a couples coaching Zoom call. And it's so incredible because we get to know each other a lot. And we realize that we all have the same situations and issues. And we really get to talk about it, which is incredible. One of the things we talked about was when faced with a decision, especially if it's a family decision amongst the couple, decide together. And I say that because a lot of the times one of us will say, okay, well, you decide. They make the decision. It doesn't go the way it's planned. And then we blame them. And that's so common because it's almost like a cop-out. Well, I'm not going to be responsible for this decision. So you decide. If it goes well, we kind of did it together. And if it doesn't go well, it's all your fault. And then we hold it against the person. And that's really, it's a stress on the marriage, on the relationship, because we want a good outcome, all of us, but we really have to be responsible as a couple and make decisions together. Or if I give my husband, you make the decision. I gave it to him and I have to own that as well. And that's really important because that could cause an issue later on where you're always blaming the person for deciding, even though you gave them the okay to decide. So that's really important, something to keep in mind. I wanted to talk about how we make decisions because a lot of the times we don't even know what we want. And that's usually the problem when it comes to, we think of something, we were thinking of a decision we're making. Maybe it's a move, maybe it's having a child or getting married, getting engaged, something major or something small. What restaurant do we want to go to for dinner? And a lot of the times we think about what we don't want and we'll go to what we don't want. For some reason, our mind goes there. I encourage you all to go to what you do want, because a lot of the times we're not taught to think about what we want. We're taught to think about what we don't want, and then we stay there in the negative. So I encourage you to think about what decision you're making and what would the possible outcome that you're hoping for. What is that? We have to have clarity on our decision making. And I think that's the number one step.
The next thing I'd like to mention is values. If you don't have any values fleshed out for your life, it's going to be hard to make decisions. And I had this intuitively. I'm going to give a big shout out to Rick Sapio and his family placemat for all of you on YouTube. This is a really amazing tool, because what happens is Rick's mapped out everything in his life. He knows what his values are. Every time he has a decision, he bases his decisions upon his values. And it's very similar to when you're looking at a real estate deal, the buy right, the manage right, and the finance right. My wife is dancing around, but it's so true. You're looking at a deal. Am I going to buy this deal? Well, you should know, are you buying a 5 cap, 80s build, 10% cash on cash return? What are your criteria? That's really the values you're looking for in the real estate deal. If they fit that criteria, good. If they don't, no. You want to be able to make that decision quickly, and you want to make that decision with confidence. And if you have those values, those parameters built out, it gives you clarity. You don't want to be in the world of maybe. You either want to be in yes or no. And that's one thing that Rick said when he met us. He said that, Jake and Gino, you guys know exactly what you want and you focus on it. And that's what every successful business person and every successful family has in common. Now, when we're creating the values, I'm going to give you a story about me, my personal. I'll have my wife share with her. Back in 2013, I'm in New York. It's the wintertime. We're going through these cyclone bombs. It's 5 degrees during the day for 2 weeks. I don't like where the state is. I hate my property taxes. I hate what the governor is saying. I hate the direction of the state. I hate the attack on the family, all of that. I didn't understand that was all going against what my core values and my core beliefs were. I just stopped falling in love with living in New York. I made that decision back in 2013, intuitively. Don't know why. I said to myself, I need to get out of the restaurant and I need to find something else to do for a living. And I want to leave New York. It took me 3 years to actually get that plan in motion and start working it out. And that's why I look back at it, and really my values aligned with moving down to Florida. I like the weather better. The people are nicer. For the most part down here, it's a little bit slower. The cost of living is much more reasonable. You get more for your dollar. And I just wanted to change. I liked it down here. It was different. Now that I look back, it was more in line with my values. And I think that's why I made that decision. And that's why I stuck to the decision. Now I can look back and go, we moved back in 2017, 4 years later, everything worked out. But it worked out because I'm looking through my lens, through my values, and saying, I don't really want to live there anymore. I want to move. How do I make that happen? And then obviously there's a lot of work. There's goal setting. There's talking with your spouse, with your children. There's the struggle of actually going through it. But that's one of those massive, huge decisions. And let me tell you, it was not easy having all the family complain, why are you leaving? Grandparents crying to the kids, leaving their friends, us leaving our friends and leaving the comfort. My identity is in New York. I'm the pizza guy. A lot of things are fighting against that decision, but I fall back on what my values were. And it was really not in alignment with my values. And I didn't feel good about the situation. That's why I came to that decision. Now you can think about any of the decisions you make. And it's the same thing when I left the restaurant. I just didn't feel great as, back in 2008, 2009, the values that I had working there. I was working harder, making less. I didn't like the industry anymore. So the values I had, I didn't want to work on the weekends. I didn't want to work during the holidays. I was missing so many things with the family. That was not in alignment with my values. And that's why I wanted to leave the restaurant. That's why I made that decision. And that's why I think I was able to conquer and leave the restaurant, because it was such in disalignment with the values that I had that I created the plan and we worked together to make that happen. So the first thing, everybody, make it your value-based decision-making. Really create those values right now. I challenge everybody right now. If you don't know your values, it's going to be hard. Sit down and write out what they are. For me, family is really important. For me, faith is really important. For me, spending quality time and doing what I want to is really important. For me, wanting to make an impact and help others is really important. Was I doing that in New York? Not really. Was I doing it at the restaurant? Somewhat, but not to the level that I am right now. So check the values and start creating the values is number one. And I think number two is your mindset. Read that book by Carol Dweck, Mindset. It's not a hard read. It's a pretty easy read. You're going to enjoy reading that book and saying, wow, I have a fixed mindset or I have a growth mindset. Which one am I and how can I get to that growth mindset? Or how can I adopt an even more of a growth mindset?
Thanks, Gino. That was good. So the question was, when you're talking about values, is it a wise decision? Because that's important to ask yourself. One of the other questions I asked myself, is it possible? And I say that because I'm very realistic. Now, we want to think big. We want to do all that, but we also want to be realistic. So is it a possible outcome? That's something to talk about with someone as well. The next thing I ask myself, what are my choices? Because a lot of the times again, it's all about clarity. We don't have clarity on what the choices are. We think we want something. We decide what we want. We decide what decision we're trying to make or to achieve. What are my choices? Because usually there are more than one, and we only are fixed on one. Talk to someone wise. Talk to someone that's gone through whatever you're trying to do, to decide. Talk to someone, how they went through it. If they're moving, what did you do? Tell me the issues you came along with that you didn't think of before, because other people have, they've gone through things, they have experience, and it's smart for us to talk to those people that have gone through life experiences. A lot of times when we're younger, we don't want anyone to give us advice. We want to try it for ourselves. We want to do it ourselves. And what happens is it's good for us because we go through a difficult situation and we learn from it. But at the same time, we can also get advice from other people that have gone through it. And that's very, very smart to do. And I've done that before, and I've not done that before. So I'm just encouraging you to do that. But again, the question is, why do I want this? Write down the reasons you want this. And again, it could be to get into shape, to eat healthier. Because sometimes if we don't know the reasons behind it and we don't actually have it written down in front of us, it kind of gets lost and the days go on and we're, if it's a health reason, we're eating junky, we're not exercising, we're not drinking all that water because we don't have clarity. We don't have reasons. So write the reasons down so that you could see them throughout the day, because that's really important.
What Julie's trying to, I guess, expand upon is, what is your why? Why do you want to eat healthy? Or why do you not want to eat healthy?
That's our reasons.
But what is the why? The big why. I want to eat healthier because I want to be around for my children. I want to see my kids walk down the aisle. So I have the choice to eat crap right now every day and to be unhealthy. Whatever you do in your 30s and 40s are going to affect your 50s and 60s, so on. So if you understand that, you can choose to eat healthy. I think also having an accountability or a partner will help you with decisions, will give you the confidence. Jake is my partner in the real estate side. When we make a decision, we both make it together. There's two of us. We held each other accountable. We work really hard. I think that's an important thing. And I think the other thing is making decisions, even small ones, can lead to confidence. I didn't just wake up one day and go, I want to leave New York and happen overnight. I was already a little bit older. I already had a lot of experience with making decisions. I ran a business. I had employees. So I was always making those little small decisions. When I came to making that big decision, it took a little bit of effort, but I decided. So start out with small decisions. Start with the small ones. And once you make that decision, you'll have the confidence to go make another decision, And don't beat yourself up if you made, quote unquote, the wrong decision. Because like I said, hindsight is 20/20. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. If you make the decision today, if you think you make the mistake, look to see what the opportunity is in the mistake. I always said to myself, if we left New York and we didn't like it down here, we could always move back up. Just pull the ego out of it. I had a backup plan. Like Julia said, write your pros down and your cons to what your decisions are. The pros would be great, new lifestyle, new adventure. The con is, I'm leaving my family. And what happens if things go bad? I just had enough pain in my life that the decision was a lot easier for me. And I knew what my values were, once again, that it really wasn't a decision at the end of the day. And then I just tried to convince my wife and my children. They saw the vision and we just took a chance.
Yeah. Sometimes we focus on the assumptions in a negative way. If we're the type that we we have a hard time making a decision because we go down that rabbit hole, like Gino mentioned, of all the things that could go wrong. And we focus on that. And then in the end, we make the decision not to do it because of what ifs. And we're assuming the negative. Well, let's start assuming the positive as well. And again, I'm encouraging you, please write these things down, because when they get out of our head on the paper in front of us, we can read them. Even if we go back the next day and read the reasons again, write down the pros. What if you do this? What are the results? What are the possible results that could come of this? And all of a sudden, we see a lot of great things that could come out of this decision making. And then we actually have a plan. That plan starts to come with seeing these possibilities. And then we can actually decide to take a step toward that. Because if we don't have clarity, we don't know what direction to take a step in. And then we are paralyzed and we don't do anything.
Julia, do you want to expand upon what am I missing or avoiding? Because I think that is really important, because most of us go into the assumption of, and this is true for human nature, if you write down what you're missing or what you're going to lose out on, you're more apt to take that decision.
Yeah.
And let me really quick give you the example. If we didn't move down to Florida, I would have missed out on going to the beach every other day, living in beautiful weather, being able to ride my bikes with the kids, being able to go fishing, just a great lifestyle, the whole 9 yards. I would have missed that. So if you paint that picture of what you're missing, that may spur you to make that decision or allow you to make that decision a lot more, because there's a lot of pros, but think of what you're missing. Like, even like for me, not doing a real estate deal. Well, we're not doing that real estate deal. I won't get that cash value. I won't get that equity in the property. I won't be able to expand my business. If you think of that fear of loss as opposed to what you're gaining, that may spur you to take more action.
Yeah, a lot of times we come across a decision that we're trying to make, and there's a fear of, like Gino said, well, what if? And we are familiar where we are. We're familiar with not making the decision, because when you don't make that decision, you're staying where you are, and it's familiar. Whether it's good or bad, you're in a bad situation, in a good situation, doesn't matter. You're familiar with it. You're used to it. It's comfortable. And when we decide to make a change, that is unexplored territory. We don't know yet. We don't know what that looks like. And so we're afraid to take the step because, well, what if it goes wrong? Well, here's the thing. If it does go wrong, just go back to where you were. If it goes right, what could you be missing out on? Like Gino said, we have no idea. Sometimes we don't know until we get there, but the possibilities are incredible because there's something different. A lot of time we just have to take a leap of faith and be like on an adventure. When we moved down to Florida, I'm not kidding, we knew no one. And I looked at it as this life adventure. I have no idea what's going to happen, but let's just take a leap of faith and go for it. Now, we pray a lot before a decision making. We think about it. We write it down. We talk to other people, and we literally just take a step. And a lot of the times it's like your mind is playing tricks on you, telling you not to take a step. You don't know what's going to happen. Something can go wrong. All these things, it's like a battle going on in your head. And I just encourage you to take a step. Just take one and see where it leads you. Take another step. Sometimes we think so far in advance that we're so overwhelmed that we just shut down. Just take one small step toward that goal and then keep going.
In the Personal Finance Academy, I learned from my mentor, like I said, the 6 steps to decision making. I want to share those with you. And if you want to get any information on that Personal Finance Academy, just email me, gino@jakeandgino.com. It's really created for young adults and for parents who want to learn about personal finance, all the things that we didn't learn in school, like renting an apartment, buying a car, personal development, money, all that's in there. But this 6 steps to decision making may give you some clarity, and there's a framework. So let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back on the other side.
Hey, Wheelbarrow Profits family, are you struggling with ways of teaching your kids about money and financial literacy? Gino, I think we have something to help them. Tell them about it.
We've been hard at work creating the Jake and Gino Youth Academy. The Academy takes a deep dive into good money habits, setting up a budget, investing, taxes, the difference between an asset and a liability, and so much more. This is a great opportunity to spend time with your children, to be their role model when it comes to money and investing, and learn how to set them on the right path to financial success.
If you want more information on how you can become the next Youth Academy member, visit www.jakeandgino.com/education to begin your journey to financial freedom.
As we like to say at Jake and Gino, people with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. Julia, I'm excited to share these 6 steps. I don't even know if you remember them. And I put them away, and I don't really need them anymore. And I'll give you an example. This past weekend, we went away and we went on vacation 2 weeks before. My wife was like, "Do you want to go away?" I thought about it for a second. I said, "Sure, let's go." Years ago, I would have pondered and struggled and thought, should we do it? Should we not do it? And now decision-making is more of instantaneous. But these 6 steps are really what you can use to make any decision, big, small. Think of them, and I'm going to use the analogy of a hat. Think of putting a hat on your head, and I'm going to give you all 6 of them in different colored hats, and let's take the journey. The first one is the white hat. So that's the white hat you put on. That's the first one. That's the information gathering. You're going to gather all the information. Let's use the one on for going on vacation. Well, Jewel, when are we going to go? This weekend. Where are we going to go? How many days? You need to gather all the information. And the same thing. Let's say you're buying a real estate deal. Let's say you're moving, whatever it is. Let's gather all that information. That's the first step. Don't get overwhelmed. Just gather all the information. Good?
Got it.
Number 2, the yellow hat. Put your yellow hat on. Identify the positives in that decision. Well, for going on vacation, it was great. Something different. We got to see my aunt down there. We went out to eat, breakfast and lunch. For my wife, the positives, she didn't have to do laundry. She didn't have to.
I did when I got home.
But I'm just saying, you didn't do it on vacation. It was something different. It was a change. It was a break. We were in my mom's condo. It was just something different. It was a different experience. We loved going down there. We loved the restaurants and the atmosphere down there. Right? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the positives. The yellow hat. Number 3, the black hat. Put that black hat on. The difficulties and pitfalls. Well, what are the difficulties and pitfalls of any decision? There's always some difficulties. We have to drive down there. We have the kids in the car. She's got to get food for them. We're down there. It might cost more money. We're not home, the comfort of our home. So list all those difficulties. That's the 3rd one. Number 4 is the red hat. Put that red hat on. Let your emotions come to the surface because you need emotions. What happens, most people put that red hat on number 1 instead of number 4, right? Instead of the information gathering, their emotions just take over. And when you have lower emotions, leads to lower intelligence. Higher emotions, a higher emotional feeling leads to higher intelligence. So if you start your decision-making right around with your emotions, you're already going down the wrong road because you don't have that information. You haven't thought about the positives. You haven't thought about even the difficulties. So don't start out with the emotions. Start out with the logic first. And you need emotions because if I wasn't emotional about leaving New York, I probably would still be there. So you need a component of that emotionals. What do salespeople say? Salespeople say, sell with emotion, sell with logic, close with emotion. That's what you want to do. You're talking to yourself logically. Once you've reached that logic stage, you want to close yourself with the emotion. You need that emotion. You need that energy, that excitement. Like my wife said, that why to be able to close it, make that decision. So that's really important. Number 5 is the green hat. That's the creativity. Look at the creativity, like Julia said, that fun. What happens when you go on vacation? What happens? The positive stuff of going to another place, of moving. That's really awesome. Look at it analytically. And the 6th one is the blue hat. That's what management made is going through the process. That's where you start out at this 6th phase and start creating that framework, start creating the goals and start creating the process. We would call it our quarterly priorities in business, where we sit down and we create a roadmap or a place to start once we've made that decision.
Well, last night when we were talking to the couples, one of the women we were talking to, and I agree with her, is that a lot of the times we feel selfish in a sense of making a decision, especially when other people are involved. And so we give it to the other person because we don't want to be in control. And a lot of us do that. And I've done that my whole life. So I completely get that.
Why did you do that your whole life?
Because you feel like why would it be up to me? Why is it always up to me what we eat for dinner or what, where we're going on vacation? Why can't it be up to the other person? So you always give it to them. And I just give yourself permission to make a decision. And if you are like that, because I was like that, start with just the little decisions. The little decisions that do involve other people. it's okay to say, let's go here for dinner. What do you guys think? Okay, sure. If everyone complains about it, maybe not, but you know what I mean? Because it's okay to start making decisions based on what you want to do. And that's okay. Like I said, give yourself permission to make a decision and go for it. Like Gino said, when we moved, that was a whole family decision, but in a sense, it was really just our decision. We decided. And it's important in that sense to talk about it with the other people involved and explain your reasons, because a lot of the time, especially parents, don't really explain the reasons they're making a decision to our children. And so what happens is they don't learn how to make a decision. And that's a lot of us grow up not knowing how to make a decision. And that's important, to teach our kids how to make decisions by just what we're talking about. What's involved? What do you want? Who's involved in this decision making? What are the steps? What could possibly go right? What would you be missing out on? What could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to learn from it? Or are you going to say, oh, poor me, I messed up, I'm never making a decision again? Or are you going to learn from it? Here's what I'll do if this happens. Because if we have a plan, then it's easier to do. So have a plan in mind. Teach the kids to have a plan. Teach them from a young age, here are 2 outfits. Which ones do you want to wear? Let them start deciding what they like better. Because then we're going to grow up being able to make decisions. And then we wouldn't have to have this podcast, because everyone would know how to make a good decision.
The framework, once again, let's just start out. Let me recap everything that we've discussed. I think the first thing is to have that mindset. You need to have the growth mindset. It's okay if you make a decision and it doesn't go well. Not everything goes well in life. I think the learning benefits and the learning that you'll be able to get from that decision you made is going to help you make other decisions going forward. I think the next thing you need to do is to create your values. What are your values? You can't make a decision unless you have values that are fleshed out, unless you know what your values are. Once again, I didn't want to work on the weekends. I didn't want to work on Christmas anymore. That was pretty easy for me to decide that I want to leave that business and go into another business. So what mindset, values, and then go through that framework, those 6 steps that I have there, because that will really give you clarity. Don't make decisions just based on emotions. Emotions are important, but if that's the sole factor, I will guarantee you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions. And that's why I love real estate, because for the most part, it's logic, it's numbers. You do need some emotion in it. You do need to get excited about it. You do need, because you're going to be having partners, raising capital. You're going to have to like the deal for the benefits and for what the future holds. But if it doesn't make sense logically, don't run in there just because of emotions. So use your logic, but then again, at the same time, use your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just take a step. When you decide on something, just take a step. Even like I said before, if everything's telling you in your head, you're going to make the wrong decision, you're going to mess up, just take a step, because we know what we want, but we are always in our own way. So get out of your own way and let yourself take a step toward that decision that you already made.
And Julia, the last thing I'd like to say, I could say so much about this topic, but it's really important. Be careful who you go to for information or for advice about decisions. I'm going to go to my wife because she's my peer and she's my partner. I'm not going to go to somebody. For instance, if I want to get into the real estate and I'm going to another person who has no idea, who's never bought a real estate deal, who has never gotten into anything other than a W-2 job, and I'm talking to them about an entrepreneurial venture, well, what do you think they're going to say? Well, that's too risky. Go to somebody who has experience. Go to somebody who's done that before. I talked to a lot of people who moved before I made that decision. I talked to a lot of people who wanted to get out of their little small businesses. So I already had information and I already had mentors telling me that I could do it. Mm-hmm. Success leaves clues. Go ask people who have done it or who've taken the leap and get information from them.
Another perk of Jake and Gino community is we have a Toastmasters once a week on Wednesday nights, and I love it. And this past week I was the table topics master or whatever it's called. And my question was, who do you go to for advice that you should not? And who should you go to for advice that you don't? Because a lot of the times, for some reason, we choose the wrong people because it's a habit. It's a habit. And the answer, I think, was they go to the father and they should go to the mother. And I thought that was funny. But the point is, for some reason, we are just in a habit to go to one person because they're familiar. Think about who you go to for advice. And is that the right person to go to? because a lot of times too is we're in a different stage of our life, and maybe we should reevaluate who we're getting advice from. So that's a really big question that I want everyone to think about. Who are you going to for advice that you should not be? And who should you be going to for advice that you're not, but you will start doing?
Big shout out to Joe Yarico for that answer. And it was really enlightening because everyone, we didn't cringe. I don't know what the word was, but we had that realization like, wow, he's probably what I've been doing.
Yeah.
For a
most of
long
us,
period
because
of our time.
we've never thought about it. We've never asked these questions.
Yes.
That's why ask yourself that question, because the people you go to for advice makes a huge impact on your life.
Yes. And the second thing I'd say to that is if you're going to get business advice, it's great to have a mentor, but don't be afraid to invest in your education, because sometimes free advice is just free. You're not going to act upon it, but if you have some skin in the game, it makes a whole new difference. You're holding yourself accountable. You've invested in yourself, and there's a game changer. So that's really important as well.
Awesome.
We want to thank you for spending time with us today and for being part of the Jake and Gino community. If you have any questions, or if you even want to get this choices sheet from Julia, just email Julia. It's juliabarbaro@gmail.com. And she'd love to share this sheet with you because it's thought provoking.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to provoke those thoughts because it's a lot of hard work, but I will guarantee you, if you put in the work, your decision-making will get so much better. The ability to have those choices will be so much better, and you'll have so many more opportunities, because once you make those decisions, they come and they're gone, and the next decision comes up and the next opportunity presents itself.
Right. No, absolutely. So good to see you all. We can't wait to see you again.
Thank you.